Hey, everybody. I threaten every week to make a longer intro for this show, and I still don't do it. But maybe I will someday quit threatening and actually do it. Welcome, everybody, to Comic Art Convo, where my partner and I, James, the man known from Sequential Treasures, joins me to talk about comic book stuff. And today is no different. Let's bring James in and see what he's got in store for us today. Hello.
Hey.
How are you?
Call me Glenn Fry because the heat is on.
Boy, is it ever. It's warm here in the Northwest. That's for sure.
But it's even hotter because earlier this week, I got in this.
That is smoking hot right there, pal.
And I got this.
Explosive, furious hot.
And of course, that's on top of earlier this year, I got this.
Look at that. You got the little Presti cover of Alien Alamo.
And just like with Grace of God, anyone who's not a knucklehead ordered Alien Alamo. But
That's
only
right.
Those of us with discerning taste got the Aaron Presti variant cover.
Exactly. That's what we're talking about. Oh, my goodness. Well, we got a crowd rolling in here as we normally do on Saturdays. Past Master Dan is here. Wait a minute now. He's got a long one, so let's take a look. Can't wait to hear the exciting adventures of Old Man Lopresti and the couch that wouldn't rest. Now in Technicolor. And hopefully snacks will be low-sodium crackers and warm 2% milk. I don't normally do this outside of my show, but I couldn't help it there. That was he was asking for that.
I'm wondering maybe past Master Dan is suffering from some heat stroke or something because he might think this is the Sunday show and not the Saturday.
Could be. Save those for the Sunday show. Leg Kick is here because Leg Kick, of course, is almost always here. H is for Heretic. How about that Wraith of God start to finish? Amazing. And that epilogue? Bring on Blood Hunters. Thank you, H. Appreciate it very, very much. Marcus Killigrew's here. Just finished watching Aaron Judge hit home runs. Just finished watching Aaron Judge hit home runs. That's what I read it wrong. But Aaron Judge, of course, the baseball player, not Aaron, me judging something. So now that we got that cleared up, let's say hello to Chuck White. Really like Wraith of God. 9 out of 10. Well, not a 10 out of 10, but I'll take a 9. Thank you so much, Chuck. I really appreciate it.
Well, I think they're trying to keep you humble. They don't want you to get too full of yourself.
That's right. I gotta have something to strive for. Anyway, James, this is our show. This is really a show that you put together and mastermind every month. What are we doing today?
All right, today, guys, we're going to talk about something that's near and dear to my heart: single issue stories, and some of the favorite ones Aaron and I have. Because in today's comics, they don't really seem to know how to do a good done-in-one story anymore. It's all major arcs or big-time crossovers, and while those can be fun and everything, they have in the past. I really miss seeing the great done-in-one stuff that you don't see so much of anymore. And so we're gonna kind of step it back and bring it back and say, hey, here's some great done-in-one stories that we liked, and you guys should check out if you haven't already. And hopefully everyone's gonna have a good time with that.
All right, well, why delay? Let's get rocking and rolling, James. Here's your first one that you brought up.
Okay, now, just so folks know, the way I did mine is I have the cover so you can see what the book is, and then there's 2 pages. Either there'll be 2 consecutives or there'll be 2 different pages that I think are key in the story, so you can got to get the whole vibe of the issue.
All right, here we go. Let's take a look at the first one. Is right here, Punisher number 45. Why is this so special, James?
The cover there is by Ron Wagner, but the interiors are by Todd Smith. Written by Chuck Mr. Action Dixon.
There you go. There's good enough reason to like it.
I believe this is Chuck's very first published Punisher story, if I'm not mistaken. So
really?
Yes. Because up to this point, it was Mike Barron writing the series. This is the first issue where Chuck wrote an issue on the series. So I believe this is first issue. Now, in this one, Punisher is out to get a person who's gone around and killing taxi cab drivers. And, it's pretty much your typical pop boiler stuff that you expect from the Punisher, He gets a cab, and he goes out and tries to see if he can get the killer to get into his cab so he can take care of business. And of course, you know, he sees all kinds of strange people and weirdness that goes on in New York City, and you know, in the back of the cab, and just, you know, he sees the life of a cabbie for a day, and it's all kind of fun and games until the killer actually does show up, and then this is what we get with that. The killer isn't what he thought. He thought it was some guy as a killer, but instead it's a woman, and the woman is killing for a very specific reason. You know, she tells you right here, my car broke down. I called for a cab. I tried to wave one of you down. You wouldn't stop. Not in that neighborhood. I had to walk home. It was late. I was raped because you wouldn't stop. So she's blaming cab drivers for getting raped because they wouldn't stop and pick her up in a not so nice neighborhood. And, you know, the Punisher's listening to all this, and he's trying to talk her down. He even says, you know, I give her a chance. He tried to talk her out. He goes, she's not taking it. And then, well, this is what happens. Yeah, he has to do what he actually came out to do. But the key of the story here is these last 3 panels with the Punisher. After he takes care of business, he goes, you know, she was hunting the wrong animal. If she went after rapist, I'd have helped her, given her a better handgun and some advice. You have to keep things in perspective. You have to keep your judgment clear. You have to have a goal in life. And just, you know, and just that expression in the 5th panel says it all. You know, he's like, you see the panel before, he's like almost like sorry he had to do it, but then it's like right back to the war, baby. It never ends. And I just love this. To me, it's like a perfect Punisher story. You know, Chuck, you know, had the action there, but in the end, he gets this nice little drama and a little bit of pathos and like even a little bit of a moral in a way from the Punisher perspective. And I just love this issue. If I was to get anyone into Punisher, I'd be like, hey, hand him this issue. If this won't make him a Punisher fan, nothing will. This is great stuff. And again, the art by Todd Smith, who he's been a competent artist. He's done a lot of work over the years. I wouldn't call him anything special or spectacular, but on this issue, he really kind of goes, I think, all out. I mean, like, again, you can see right there in that 5th panel, the hair on the knuckles of the Punisher on his fingers. You can see it. I mean, that's the detail he puts into this. I haven't really seen him do on much anything else he's ever done. So I think like this is a very special story, and this is definitely it's probably one of my favorite Punisher stories of all time is this issue. And like I said, anybody, you're a Punisher fan or you want to make someone a Punisher fan, give them this issue. This is like mwah, perfection.
Well, I love this ending here, and not surprised that something that Chuck would have written.
Yes.
Survive Infinity 0088 is here. Thanks for joining us. John Delaros is here. Hey guys. Hey John. OCB Reactions. I recall that story. So there you go. You're bringing back fond memories. John says, I love this Punisher era. Everything was so good. Derail Gaming is here. Harry B is in the chat. So we're
Leg Kick throws out a favorite of his.
Where did I miss it? Where is it? Sequential Treasures. Well, go ahead and read it because I'm not. Here it is.
Yeah, there it is.
My favorite is Incredible Hulk 272 Wendigo versus Sasquatch, and Banner can't change. And then the
one where Banner finds out that he now can control the change into the Hulk. And that's a great story. You know, it's by one of my favorite writers, Bill Mantlo. So it's you know, it's a good one. I didn't pick that, but that's definitely a good story. I got to give him that. That's a good call. Good call there, Leg Kick. I like it.
Bill Mantlo actually is a pretty good writer. I liked a lot of the stuff he did. Here's your second choice.
And this one, of course, we already knew about from when we did my letters page stuff. This is the issue Eric Larson keeps trashing that he did. Great cover by Ron Frenz and Al Milgrom. I mean, come on. Hulk versus Thor. We all love it. Yeah. And this is basically, to me, this is the ultimate slugfest issue. If you want to know how to do a slugfest story and do it properly, this is the book you have to read. It was a plot by Jim Shooter, script by Stan the Man Lee, pencils by Larson, and inks by Vinnie Coletta. And it's just an awesome story. It's a Hulk you've never seen before, though. He does certain things in here that you've never seen. There's this one scene because what happens is the Hulk. This is supposedly during the period when the Hulk and Banner were separated, and so this is when Thor is fighting like the sort of the mindless Hulk. But in the story, he's not really mindless. That's the kind of the funny part about it. And in this story, Thor has to go into this town because the Hulk is raging, and he goes to stop him. And there's this one scene where the Hulk is getting knocked into an apartment complex, and he comes out holding a woman by her legs and threatens to like throw her if Thor doesn't throw away his hammer. So he does. And then they go on to just have the two of them battle for like several pages. And this is like one of the pages right here. I just love this. It's so, and I love Stan Lee's scripting on this, the way he does the dialogue here, like the caption. He goes, where he's fighting, he goes, none may say that Thor be weak. I shall not shame my birthright, as they're all trash-hunting people are running, and it goes, but Thor is oblivious to their fear, or to the terror, where once he fought for others, now he fights for pride. As for the Hulk, he needs no reason to fight. His clouded mind, now free of Bruce Banner's influence, knows only naked savagery. I mean, it's just like, it's so Stan Lee, and it's awesome.
Now, wait a minute. If Thor threw away his hammer, is this still the stage where he has to get it back in 60 seconds where he turns into Don Blake? We're past that.
But it does return to him. That's the whole point. Because he even says, he goes, I can throw Mjolnir away. And he goes, if I throw him far, it'll take a few minutes for it to return. I may yet yield victory from this mess. And so he throws it away as far as he can. And so for several pages now, he's going to be fighting the Hulk without Mjolnir. And then Mjolnir shows back up, and then this happens. This next page right here. The hammer shows back up, and Thor gets it, and the Hulk's like, no, not the hammer. And he's like, what, you afraid to face the might of Asgard unfettered again? And he goes, Hulk not afraid of any man, but Thor not man, Thor god of thunder. And then this page, and he goes, Hulk stronger than Thor. Hulk need no hammer to smash enemy, nor does Thor. Let Mjolnir again be gone. Thor shall feel thee with bare hands alone. No, keep hammer. Hulk doesn't care. Hulk only fights when angry. Anger gone now. Hulk will crush Thor next time. And so then Thor calls it back. But here's again, just like with the Punisher story, there's a good little moral here in the end where Thor tells her, he goes, for one brief moment in time, a god hath fought a monster, and the taste of battle still clings bitter to my lips. I, who am sprung from gods, turned savage as he. Goaded by a lusting for victory, my rage blinded me to the damage, the suffering thus caused. What doth it matter who be the stronger? 'Twas he who ended the fray, whilst I hungered to battle on in the name of empty pride. Yea, to my eternal shame, on this bleak day, a god turned monster too.
Oh, heavy, man.
And this story at the time, again, if you knew what the letters pages people wrote in, they were upset because they thought because of this, basically, the Hulk beat Thor in his own book. Thor came out the loser in this battle because you see the Hulk, he looks perfectly fine. Thor's all bloody and battered and bruised. And then he's still sitting here saying how like he kind of feels he lost because, even though he may have driven the Hulk off, it was the Hulk that ended the battle, not him. And so it's like, oh my God, I became like a monster myself. And it's just people were very up. But I love this story for that. Again, a great little moral in the end. You got Class A talent writing the story, Jim Shooter and Stan Lee, all action, the ultimate slugfest issue.
And yet there's still a moral at the end of the story.
Yes.
Very nice. Very nice. All right. Excuse me while I click a few of these things off here so we can get, let me grab something in the chat here real quick. Harry B says, Aaron, my Wraith of God just came in the mail today. Looking forward to reading it this weekend. Thank you, Harry. I hope you enjoy it. Let me know if you do. Brian Suddenly Old is here. I have the PDF DVD of Hulk 1 up to 2005. Let me see if I can read that. I have the PDF DVD of Hulk 1 up to 2005, an odd early digital comic thing.
Interesting.
I assume you mean the up to 2005, the year, because I don't think we went that many.
Every Hulk story, I'm guessing from issue 1 up to whatever the last one was in 2005. Right.
Marvel Fanfare number 8, I believe, where the Hulk fights the Blob, and the Blob is trying to take care of I thought it said Uranus for a second. Take care of Eunice the Untouchable.
Eunice the Untouchable.
Uranus the
Untouchable. Don't get that confused with the planet. Don't do that. We don't want to start that up here. That's for Sunday. That's for Showtime.
That's a great issue right there. What was that? That was right after the Wolf. Was it right before?
Yes, it was a two-parter with Wolverine, and then 182, the intro of Hammer and Anvil. Yes.
That's right. He was like in a prison or something. It was, yeah, I remember that. In fact, I think there was a power record of that issue. You know, the ones where you play the record and it beep and tell you to turn the page, and it would have the voice acting on it.
Although he's talking about the Marvel Fanfare issue, and that one was done by John Byrne, and it's not issue 8, it's issue number. Oh wait, no, the Hammer and Anvil. That is Hulk 182. Of course, he could also meant Marvel Fanfare number 29, which also had the Hulk fight Hammer and Anvil by John Byrne.
True. But I remember that issue, and I bought that issue off the newsstand. The funny thing is, it was like typical fashion of me. I would either start buying an issue right after the key issue came out, or I'd stop buying it right before it came out. So I always missed all these key issues when I was a kid. Yeah, I was reading the Hulk right up until Wolverine, and I quit buying it right before Wolverine came out. What an idiot.
See, it's starting up already. Aaron wasn't thinking of a planet.
Oh.
Uranus the Untouchable. I don't think I should think so, Aaron. Oh man.
Then wait a minute. There's a Kirby character for you, Uranus the Untouchable. Joseph Fazio for $1.99. Thank you, Joseph. Says Ed Norton is the one true and only Bruce Banner.
I agree.
That's interesting.
I agree. Him in the Incredible Hulk film, he was Bruce Banner. I mean, yeah, outside of Bill Bixby being David Banner, Ed Norton is Banner. Yes, he was scrawny. He was scrawny enough, and he had the look and the mannerisms. He felt like Banner to me. Whereas I've never felt they were like Bruce Banner.
I liked Ed Norton's Bruce Banner, but I liked the look of the new Hulk from the what's his name? The guy who does Ruffalo? The Hulk now. Yeah, Ruffalo. I like the Ruffalo Hulk look. I think they finally got the face right. It was a good marriage facially, but I don't like the Bruce Banner character as much as I like Norton's Bruce Banner.
Oh, here's another one from Leg Kick. Spider-Man revealing who he is to the kid with cancer. So sad, but a great shot. Great one shot. And yeah, that was actually a partial story in Amazing Spider-Man 248. 247 was part 1, and then 248 had part 2, but they cut it in half and then did the other half of The Boy Who Loves Spider-Man, and that's what that story was. Yeah, that was a good story done in one. That was a nice one.
Suddenly, you're just dropping.
And there will be some Spider-Man in here, just so you know, Leg Kick. Not that issue, but there will be some Spider-Man in here.
Oh, I've got some too. There you go. My favorite is the first graphic novel, The Death of Captain Marvel. There's a sentimental reasons. That was a great graphic novel.
That's a great story. Yeah.
Okay, let's take a look at your next choice, which is sorry, I have to push about 6 buttons. Here it is.
Batman. Now this is right after a death in the family. Right after the death, I guess you say the temporary death of Jason Todd.
Mm-hmm. The temporary death.
And this is called Fatal Wish. And in this story, Batman ends up on the scene of a guy who's a sniper. He's up on the top of a building just like capping people for like no apparent reason. He's like mad at the world or whatever his issue is, and he's capping people. And there's a scene in this issue, right when Batman gets on the scene, he shows up and he's behind Gordon, and Gordon asks him, he goes, "Robin's not with you tonight?" And then there's a panel of his face, and then the next panel is the same face, and he goes, "No." And then that's it. That's the only time they address what had just happened in the previous storyline. Robin not with you tonight? No.
But I'm trying to remember, because all this stuff happened when I was at film school. So I was getting my comics at Golden Apple, and I was reading Batman during this period of time. And I remember this cover being, who is that? I can't read the writing.
Yeah, I can't make out the name either. But yeah, it's a great image. You guys right there. Somewhere below, there lurks a madman with a rifle and a secret the Batman dare not face. Somewhere below is the fatal wish.
I remember seeing that cover and thinking, that's pretty wild. I mean, I was just very different, not your typical superhero art that you would expect, sort of kind of quiet and elegant. But
now what they did is after Batman shows up on the scene, they start doing a split screened story where you see this stuff in yellow and orange, which is a recap of origin. And then of course, what's happening in the present with Batman. And the way they recap this origin, you're thinking this is the origin of the sniper, and you can see here, he says something to his father and his father hits him. And, his mother tries to console him about it. He did. Daddy's been under a lot of strain. He didn't mean it. Go to the next page.
Before we do you notice that the guy's name is Thomas? How could you? I don't know if that was a good choice, because isn't Batman's father's name is Thomas Wayne, right?
It is.
So you could sit there and go, wait a minute, is this supposed to be a flashback to Bruce Wayne, or the flashback of the Hitman? So interesting.
Well, the key is the next page. That's the next page is the key.
Okay, we'll get there. Here we go. There it is.
And here's the kid. Yes, he did. No, your father loves you. Well, I don't love him. No, I don't love him no more. I hate him. I wish he was dead. And it turns out you are correct, Aaron. This whole origin story is not the snipers. It is Batman's story. This is what happened the night before they went to see Zorro and walked down that famous alley. This is what happened. He wished his father was dead, and then the next day he was. And so like this to me is epic, because it's like an Alan Moore Swamp Thing type of thing, where like what Moore did in there, he changed everything and yet changed nothing. Everything that happened before all happened exactly as we know it. It's just here's this bit of information about the character that sort of changes everything. So like Batman's being so driven, this is why he has the survivor's guilt that he does. He knows I'm just a kid. I couldn't have stopped the killer. I couldn't have changed what happened that night in the alley. But he wished his father was dead, and the next day he was. How do you live with that as a kid, knowing it's my fault? I wished him dead, and now he is.
Yeah,
this is like the ultimate. Like it changes everything, and yet it changes nothing. And that to me is the brilliance of this scene: is how you can inject something new into something so well known, and yet not ruin anything. That is the true secret of doing that kind of thing. Moore did it with Swamp Thing. Starling does it here with Batman. This is what a lot of guys today, they try to do when they inject their politics or their social commentary or whatever it is they want to put into the characters. They shoehorn it in, but they don't do it like this. They just sort of shove it in, and it's a square peg in a round hole. That's why it always fails. This is how it's done right. And
I agree. That's an excellent touch.
Excellent. Like I said, you don't see it coming, because again, at this point, you don't know that this is Batman's origin. You don't know this is him. You think it's the way they've been playing it is to try to red herring you to thinking this is the sniper's origin, as the sniper's going around shooting people, and this is why he's mad at the world or whatever. He's mad at his father, and he's taking out on everybody else. And in the end, you find out, no, this was Batman's origin. This was what happened the night before his father died.
Very cool.
Excellent
That's
stuff.
I don't know that, I might have looked at the cover. I may not have picked that issue up for some reason, because I don't remember reading that. And that's a really cool revelation within the context of that story. Eric the Guapo, what's a good story? Me waiting for Wraith of God and Garbage Man to ship. Yours got shipped, buddy. So you should be having it soon.
Oh, here we go. Derek WC has the answer for us.
If I can get it to come up. Frederick Butler did the cover to Batman 430. I've never heard of Frederick Butler, but that was kind of a cool cover. I liked it. Very different.
What is it? What's his name? He did the Shadow at DC. Kalua? How do you pronounce his name?
Kaluta?
That's it. His art has very much like a style like his, the way it looked. I liked that.
Yeah, it's interesting, because I don't know that I've ever seen him do anything else, but there was that cover that kind of caught my attention. All right, now moving from the...
Oh, wait a minute. What's this? Skull Gnasher. That is lame. What's lame? What, that it was Batman's origin? That's awesome. That makes the whole story worth reading.
He may be referring to Leg Kick, saying Marvel 2-in-1, where the Thing battles the Thing from the past. Great fight. And Skull Gnasher says that is lame. So is he referring to you or to Leg Kick?
That's true.
Well, he'll probably clarify for us.
2-in-150 was a lame story. That was pretty cool, seeing the Thing of the past versus the Thing of the present. That was kind of neat. I like that. Okay, this is our next bit.
This is the next one right here.
This is Adventures of Superman 474. Now, it's cover dated January of 91, but it came out November of 90. That's when and you can see here it's Dan Jurgens writing and penciling with inks by the Moses of Methuselah of comics, Art Thibert. Art was only about midway through his career when he did this. So,
hey, I love this. This is one of the few times I picked up Superman during this period of time because I just loved how Art embellished Dan Jurgens'
I
pencils
do
on
too.
this.
I mean, Breeding's a nice inker on Jurgens, but I always thought he was way better on Friends. I always thought Art was the perfect inker for Jurgens. Whenever him and Jurgens were working, I love that look.
I agree. This stuff really caught my attention, and
but like just looking at the cover, you're thinking, what's this all about? Superman, it's a ghostly image of him looking at this action. Is it something he couldn't have stopped? Was he too busy fighting a supervillain? Was he responsible for this guy's crash? What happened? Well, what
we're
it
about
is,
to find out.
It's a story from his past. See, when the story opens, Clark Kent reads a story about a guy who's been in a coma for 20 years, and they're about to pull the plug that night. So he goes to where the guy is to say goodbye, and it turns out it's a kid he went to school with. And what happened is we learn the story of how this kid ended up in a coma. And what happened is this kid was like the cool kid in school. Everybody liked him and stuff. Everyone wanted to hang out with him, that guy, him. And they went to him, Lana, Pete, and this kid Scott. They all went to a party. And what do you think teenagers at a party are going to be doing? What's that? What do you think?
Oh, I said they're boozing it up.
There you are. Exactly. That's what they did. And so they and then of course then Scott gets behind the wheel of his car and they're driving, and well, you can see how that ends up. But you can see here Clark gets out without a scratch, of course. But yet Lana and Pete, they're not so lucky, and of course Scott himself, he ends up in a coma as a result.
Let's take a look at the next page here. There it is.
See, he's recounting the tale to Scott's parents, and he tells them, unfortunately, the paramedics couldn't help much. Scott was in tough shape. He'd already slipped into a coma. And because I didn't prevent Scott from driving and take the wheel like I should have, the accident was my fault. And the thing is, on the next page, the parents tell him, no, it wasn't your fault, Kent. You couldn't have known. And after all, you'd been drinking too. You may have thought you were okay, but you weren't. And yet he and we all know, no, he was okay because the alcohol didn't affect his Kryptonian physiology. He was sober. He could have drove and it could have been avoided. So here he is getting consoled. It's not your fault. You couldn't have changed it when he knows he could have changed it. And so he gets to eat at him forever now that this guy, I could have stopped this and I didn't. Never mind, though, at the time, he didn't know he had powers at the time. He didn't know that. But, it just, here it is. It's like, again, a weight on the shoulders of a hero that, his whole thing is, I want to help people. And here's a guy he could have helped and he didn't. And it turned out this way, and he blamed himself. And even though others say it's not your fault, he knows deep down it is, because I could have stopped this. If I'd have been the one driving, none of this would have happened. And yet no one else will believe it except him.
Right.
And I think maybe Lois, of course, at this time, because I think she knew the secret at the time too. So, but yeah, a great little story. And the story ends with him leaving the hospital as they're getting ready to pull the plug. And he's walking by, and there's a guy parked on the street. And he's been drinking, and the guy's like, "Hey man, you should you let me call you a cab." He's, "Nah, I'm fine. I can do it." And then the guy goes in and goes, "Hey, what's this?" And all of a sudden, the guy's tire is melted, and you see in the background a little Superman flying away. And I love that ending. He couldn't stop it happening then, but he stopped it happening now. And I love that. That was a great ending. Like I said, this is the kind of like almost like a PSA type of story, like your after school special. But Jurgens is masterful in not getting heavy-handed with the message, and he just makes it about character. And it's a brilliant way to tell a moralized story without being preachy and too self-effacing and all that kind of thing. So I love this story for that.
All your stories are like, they have deep emotional impact. Mine are, I don't know that I can go that far on mine.
Well, they're your favorite.
I'm much shallower as an individual, I guess.
Some impact somewhere.
Yeah. All right. How about this now? This is a little bit more fun.
All right. Now I told you guys there was going to be Spider-Man. So here's part of that. This is What If number 4, October of '89 cover date. What if the alien costume had possessed Spider-Man? Now we all know about the alien costume saga.
Well, it sort of didn't it? I mean,
well, not really. It was using his body for a while, but then when he went to see Reed Richards, Reed got it off him in time before it had bonded to him. In this What If, they say, what if that wasn't the case? What if it had bonded and Reed didn't get to it in time to get it off him? What happens? And so this is awesome because you get to see like a whole new way of how, see, the best what ifs to me are never when they change the character themselves. Like, hey, what if, Danny Ketch's sister was Ghost Rider instead of Danny? No, I don't care about someone else being the character. What I care about are a situation with the character we know being changed. And that's what this does. I love this. And this story has a special significance to me because it was the first time a comic ever made me cry.
Really?
I wasn't like bawling or anything, but like a single tear came down because it's so touching and it's just so wrought with emotion, and it blows me away. What happens is the suit bonds itself to Spider-Man. And so it goes out doing whatever he's doing to Spider-Man. And then later they cut to a scene. You can see the Hulk's on here. Do you remember issue 300 of the Hulk where Doctor Strange cast the spell that sent the Hulk to the crossroads where he was off the earth for a while?
Yes.
At the moment the Hulk's about to fall through that portal, possessed Spider-Man grabs him and throws the Hulk out, and the alien rips itself from Spider-Man and attaches itself to the Hulk. And so now you got Venomized Hulk.
Which is the worst kind of venom.
When they find Spider-Man off to the side, he's not the Peter Parker we know. He's Peter Parker 50 years older. He's like almost 80 years old. The alien literally sucked the youth out of him. And there's this great scene where old Peter goes to see May. And he goes to the house and he knocks on the door and he says, I'm a colleague of Peter's, I know he's kind of disappeared, but don't worry, I'm sure he'll be okay. I'm sure everything will work out just fine. And then he leaves, but you get the impression May kind of knows, that she knew that was really him. And it's just, like I said, so overwrought with all these emotional scenes. And then this one right here, this is the first one. This is the first gut punch. This page right here.
Okay, hang on. I was getting lost in my memories of What If, which I loved as a kid, because they were all sort of tragic there for a while. Every ending was
most of them,
the first issue, yeah.
And here you can see right here, Peter is dead. In the previous page, Reed walked in because Peter had been helping Reed try to develop something to capture the alien and stop him. Mm-hmm. And here Peter dies. And you can see here, right here, it says, the next day at an upstate piece of land owned by Avengers benefactor Anthony Stark, Earth's mightiest heroes pay their last respects to a young man whom they perhaps did not fully understand, but nonetheless deeply respected. So you got all the heroes, the Avengers and the FF, all there, all paying tribute. But the kicker is what comes after here. You can see what happens is this Black Cat, who was his girlfriend at the time, is only after everyone else leaves, she stays. And then the Kingpin shows up, and she goes, "You came? Of course. My sincerest thanks for the chance to pay my last respects to a worthy, if hopelessly naive foe." And then, like right here, they stand there for long moments. The one who loved him and the one who hated him. I mean, that's just epic. That's wow, like a Greek tragedy or something. It's just perfect. Danny Fingerroth's story is just so eloquent. It's like the best story I think he's ever done, in my opinion. And this is also
he just got himself an Ink Pot Award this past week at San Diego.
Oh, nice. But then this is the real gut punch right here at the very end. Now, what happened? Now, before you show the page, I'm going to set it up. What happens later is the Hulk shows up. That they finally catch up with the Hulk, and the Hulk, the alien rips off the Hulk and attaches itself to Thor. Now you got Venomized Thor, and they're up up by Mount Rushmore. And when the suit rips off of the Hulk, now remember, in issue Hulk 300 of the Hulk, we believe that Banner committed psychic suicide, and it was just the Hulk now. There was no changing back to Banner. When he comes off the Hulk, it's Banner, and he's cured now. He no longer has any gamma radiation. He's now cured of being the Hulk. The alien sucked all the gamma power out of the Hulk, and now just left Bruce Banner. But now he's attached to Thor. And to make sure the bonding lasts, he runs off and hides inside of Mount Rushmore. And the Avengers and stuff and Reed try to stop him with this gun they have, but it doesn't work because the thing is too powerful. Taking Spider-Man's power and the Hulk's power and now Thor's power, the alien is too strong for Reed's gun. So they decide the only way they can beat this creature is with a certain person from the moon, Black Bolt. So they bring Black Bolt down, send him into the cave that Thor is hiding in while the alien is trying to bond with him. And he just lets out a single word, blows Mount Rushmore. And then you see Thor is knocked aside and he's okay. And there's like just a little pile of the alien still there. And Reed walks over and he gets his scanner. He's like, it's still alive. Let me capture it. And then a blast comes off from the side and kills the thing. And then this is the page right after that.
Okay.
It's the Black Cat with another blaster. And she goes, you were also concerned with doing the right thing for the alien. It's as if it was as if it was some kind of person you could rehabilitate. Well, this space vampire killed the man I loved. So I did what you all lacked the nerve to do. You don't approve of what I did. My spider wouldn't have either. But he's dead, and you'll never know the price I paid to see justice done. And then the whole bottom half is just, again, it's almost heartrending when you hear it. The price Felicia Hardy paid was steep indeed. She was in Peter's room that night when he died. She Xeroxed his notes and those of Reed's blaster design and gave them copies to the one man who employed scientists with the ability to make the tracker and the weapon. That man, of course, was the kingpin of crime. With the weapon in hand, the crime lord himself provided her with a private jet to South Dakota. And all he wanted in return was her service as a criminal in his employee. Forever. Was her revenge worth the price she had to pay for it? The Black Cat doesn't really know, but she'll have the rest of her life to figure it out. Wow. I mean, even now I'm getting choked up reading it. It's just so overrun. Oh my God, this ending. So dark. I mean, Spider-Man's dead and the Black Cat is now forever bonded to the kingpin of crime. I mean, oh my God.
I loved What If because they always, they always found a way to just like break your heart at the end. Like even the first issue was what if Spider-Man had joined the FF and are you hearing an echo or is it just okay? And was it Sue ended up running off with Namor as a result, or just things like that were constantly happening. In fact, Leg Kick points out Moon Knight, where he fights his brother, who's a serial killer that targets young women. That sounds like a great story. Here, where's the somebody brought up number 3 with the Avengers. Yeah, here, Marcus Killigrew. What if number 3? What if the Avengers had never been? That was another really good one that.
Yeah.
I used to love What If.
This was from the second volume, though, in the late 80s. This is one of the first ones that started in the 70s. This is
right, but I'm just saying you can just track the whole series and you find these sort of like, as you put it, almost like Greek tragedies, throughout the entire thing,
But like I said, that was the first story that ever made me cry when I read it. I couldn't believe it, I hadn't felt that way since seeing Optimus Prime die in Transformers the movie. It's like, no, he doesn't. Optimus Prime, he doesn't die. What are you doing? It's like Spider-Man dead? No, that can't happen.
I remember how I cried when Spider-Ham died.
he was a Christmas dinner. That was his ending.
Apple stuck in his mouth with the kingpin probably carving him up.
The King Pig.
The King Pig, exactly. Oh man. Well, speaking of Spider-Man, moving right along here, we've got
my last one here, and I think this is without a doubt one of my top 10, probably even top 5 favorite comics of all time.
No, really? Why?
Bugged by the Beetle by Sal Buscema. Sal Buscema art right here from Spectacular number 164, May of 1990. Because this entire issue is told from the Beetle's perspective. It was the first time I ever read a comic where it was all from the villain's perspective. There was no captions or thought stuff from Spider-Man or whatever. It's all from the Beetle's perspective. And in this issue, he's not the powerful superhero. Like on this cover, you kind of get a feeling like he's an evil supervillain. He's not. In this issue, he's a nervous wreck. The very first page is him flying, and the story's called Bugged, and he goes, "Nice night out. Wish I could enjoy it." And he's terrified now of running into superheroes, because in the beginning of the issue here, Spider-Man swinging by, and the Beetle ducks behind a billboard to hide from him because he's afraid he'll see him. He's scared to death of having to deal with superheroes. So
and yet he's a super villain.
Yeah,
and yet he's a super villain, you know?
Yeah, and he's a super villain, and yet he's afraid of superheroes. That's just hilarious. But he goes to the Kingpin's right-hand man, the Arranger, to get a job. And the job the Arranger wants him to do is to kill Spider-Man. And he's like, oh, hell no. No way. I ain't doing nothing with superheroes. Get out of here. He goes, I'm only doing straight crime. And so the Arranger's like, okay, well, I do have this other job here. I need you someone to knock over this armored car for me. And he's like, all right, cool, I'll do it. And then even as he's walking away in the captions, the Beetle thing, he goes, something tells me I can't trust this guy, but I don't listen. And so then what happens is the Arranger contacts Peter Parker. He actually contacts the Daily Bugle to get Peter Parker to come over so he can tell him to contact Spider-Man to tell him the Beetle is going to attack this armored car. See, he's going to get him to do the job no matter what. You see, that's what he does to the Beetle. He screws him over. And so while the Beetle's, but there's a sequence in there when the Beetle's getting ready to do the job. He's putting on his armor and then he flies out. And these next 2 pages is like just epic. You know, I'm gonna read this verbatim because it's just so awesome.
All right, go for it.
He talks about how he wishes he could get another job doing something else. And then he goes, what do I put on my resume? Previous experience robbing banks and fighting superheroes? You don't think about that kind of thing when you get into this business. All you care about are thrills and money. But trust me, the thrills lose their charm after a while. And then what you're left with is the money. The funny part is the money alone really isn't enough. Next page.
This is our power record alert going beep. Turn the page, please. There it is.
But by the time you figure that out, the money is all there is. One more score and then I'll get out. Buy a house up in Oregon on a hill in the woods.
Nah, you don't want to do that.
Invest my cash and live off the interest. Me in the woods. There's a picture. I wouldn't last 2 days. He's thinking all this as he's going on the job to rob an armored car. You know, and the thing about it is, it made me feel sorry for the Beetle. I felt bad for this guy. It's like he's the villain. You're not supposed to feel bad for it, but you do. And again, up to this point, this is pre like Thunderbolts, where he kind of became a hero and stuff. This is when the point where the Beetle had been nothing but evil the entire. He'd never done a decent thing in any appearance he ever made up to this point. And I feel sorry for this guy because he's not. I don't see him as a villain. I see him as like a young guy who made a wrong decision when he was young, and he's stuck in a vicious circle and he doesn't know how to get out. He's looking for a way out, but he doesn't see one. And I felt so bad for him. And then, of course, in the story, Spider-Man goes on to fight him. He fakes, his death. The Beetle fakes his own death. But rather than leave, he goes back to the Arranger because he's ticked off that he got set up. And of course, Spider-Man had that figured out, and he fights the Beetle again and just goes on to thrash him. I mean, it's like not even a fight. I mean, it's less of a battle than the Thor versus Hulk battle was. I mean, oh my God, it's so one-sided. And people were so upset by that several issues later, when they were doing the letters page for this issue, they had mentioned, people wrote in saying Spider-Man came off like a bully in this story. they all felt such pity for the Beetle from a scene like this, that when Spider-Man beat his butt, they're like, oh my God, Spider-Man's being a bully. This guy's no threat. And it's just amazing to me that you made me feel pity for like an unpitiable character. And the thing that really gets me about it today is this story is by Jerry Conway. The same Jerry Conway who a couple years ago just insulted all manga fans by saying that they are incels who like to beat off to drawings of oversexed preteen girls. And I'm like, I can't reconcile. How can a guy who would say that write this dialogue, write this? How could he do that? I can't reconcile that.
I don't know. He's posted some pretty strange things in recent years. But boy, he wrote some good Spider-Man stories, though.
Yeah, I mean, him and David Michelini, they are the Spider-Man writers of my favorite era of Spider-Man. David was doing amazing, and Jerry was doing spectacular and Web of, and they were the Spider-Man writers. And like this story is just epic to me. It's like, you want to try to get people to change their opinions on a character, do a story like this. It's incredible. I just, and I said that dialogue, you felt so bad for the Beetle. He's not a villain. He's just a guy who's on a hamster wheel and can't get off.
Oh, but the hamster wheel of crime, and it never pays. Oh,
and in fact, at the end of the story, he even wonders. He goes, "What I don't get about any of this is why was Spider-Man so mad? It's like I took his best girl or something, and as it turns out, Peter had planned a day off with Mary Jane, and it got ruined by the Beetle doing this job."
But isn't it interesting? It's a perfect kind of like commentary on how sometimes we may think we know what's going on in somebody's head, but we really don't,
Yeah.
And that's kind of an interesting take.
And like I said, for me, it was a first for me. I had never seen a story entirely from the villain's perspective before.
That is a cool take.
When we see our stories, we're either seeing them from either like a third person perspective, like the person on the outside watching, or you see it from the perspective of the protagonist, of the hero. You never really see it from the villain side, and yet you did hear it. It's like, wow, totally different take. I never would have felt pity for the Beetle. I never thought that would happen, and yet I did.
No, it's a really good take, and it just when you're writing that many issues of a series or multiple series, as a lot of these guys were, it's like I think every once in a while you have to sort of kind of go off the beaten path a little bit to kind of keep it fresh, and I think that's a real clever idea. No, Vic's got this stream of consciousness that I have to go with here. He says, "Who got the Wraith of God in the mail today?" And he follows it up with, "I feel like I robbed Aaron with everything that came with the comic." And then he says, "I hope he doesn't ask me to return it." I do. I actually do. I was adding up the accounting, Vic, and I am in the hole because of all the stuff I gave you guys. So yeah, I'm going to be asking. You'll be getting a bill for some more money here shortly. No, I'm glad you like it. Thank you very much. I'm glad. Thank you for supporting.
Yeah, I think Marcus called it on Conway on how he could have wrote that story and yet say what he said just not that long ago. Yeah, I think Marcus is right.
I'll get down there in a second. How about the Spider-Man versus the geeky spider-suited Doc Ock kid, Leapfrog, and the Toad, where Spider-Man calls them the All-Wiener Squad?
Amazing Spider-Man 266, yes.
Look at that. He knows.
That's a funny story. That is a funny story.
Oh, the Beetle teams up with Rocket Racer. That's classic right there. Oh, my goodness. They hit kind of a Will-o'-the-Wisp, Rocket Racer, and there's another one in there where you're going, come on, these Spider-Man villains are hurting for bring back Doc Ock or something. Let's see. Conway has TDS.
Yeah.
What is that?
Trump derangement syndrome.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's not alone. And
yeah, I mean, again, it killed me to watch him say that, because I mean, the previous post he did before, just in case anyone doesn't know, he had said that manga, he didn't say any specifics, just manga is pederastic and misogynistic. And so then people schooled him on like, no, it isn't. And then rather than take the L and go, oh, maybe I overspoke or maybe I shouldn't have said anything, he comes out and says that, well, I can't believe the reaction because I said some manga, which of course he didn't say some, he just said manga. And some manga is pederastic and misogynistic. I guess there's a lot of manga readers who are incels who like to beat off to oversexed preteen girls. And it's like, what?
Well, he doesn't have to worry about biting the hand that feeds him because he's not working anymore. So I guess he can say whatever he wants.
But all over your legacy. I mean, how could
I
you
know? Yeah, he is tarnishing his. I don't know. I mean,
this is the guy that wrote The Death of Gwen Stacy and the Green Goblin. Why would you want to tarnish that?
I don't know. I don't understand.
Aaron, if you had done the story that was like that, the death of the Green Goblin and Gwen Stacy, would you ever want to tarnish that in any way?
I wouldn't think so, but a lot of these people are convinced that they're so much holier than thou that they're preaching gospel, and we need to change our way of thinking.
He should stick to try to make us unpitiable villains and leave it at that.
Exactly. Wait a minute here. Leg Kick says Spider-Man goes camping with J. Jonah while the Scorpion is hunting them. Hilarious story. What issue was? I don't remember that, but that could have been after I stopped reading Spidey. So. You guys are considerably younger than me, sadly. But Leg Kick says, Josh, Wraith of God is my favorite CG book. So looking forward to his coming books. Thank you guys again. Get my Pats on the back.
Oh,
where
here
I
you go.
can.
Kid Mustang hit up one. Big wheel.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Oh. And who was the trucker that was dressed like a pig? Razorback.
Razorback.
Yeah.
Oh, Ellie Munzo. He's got one of my favorite Z-list villains right there. Slide.
Slide. Yeah, I remember that guy with the. Yeah, he didn't have like goggles and.
Yeah, it was like a white suit with green straps and a pouch, and he had goggles, and it was all coated in like basically like a Teflon coating that like was super slick. So you could like slide around, and if you tried to grab him, you couldn't keep a hold of him. Even Spider-Man's stickiness wasn't enough to keep a hold of the guy.
Slide.
I actually like Slide. That was a neat concept.
Let's see here. Look at that. Love these streams, guys. Thank you. Hey, thank you for joining us.
That's why we do them for you guys. So we hope you do love them.
All right, so that's yours, but now let's take a look at mine then. And mine are
just so if anybody noticed, all of mine were 80s related. Just so we all know, it's all 80s stuff.
Yeah, we'll get ready for all 70s stuff. Not true. I do have a couple 80s things in here. Okay, but this one, but my reasons for picking these do not share the same emotional, sentimental impact that yours do.
Well, before we get into that, though, Pork Hunt asked a very important question here.
Did Razorback ever face US-1? Seems like a perfect match.
No, they didn't, but Razorback did meet up with US-1 out in space during the sensational She-Hulk back around around issue like 40 to 43. So
well, there you go.
They did meet, but they did not battle.
Stat Zero says, I knew from the get-go that Wraith was going to be a hit, and yet nobody recognizes that I can see the future. What gives? Stat Zero is going to...
I feel the stat. I'm always right, and no one listens to me either. I don't get it either.
I'm trying to think of who's the guy that did all the predictions that everybody keeps referring to, and most of them are BS. Nostradamus. That's what I was thinking of. So he's our very own Stat Zero's our very own Nostradamus. So we'll give him a chance to continue to predict the future. But while I look into the past with Amazing Spider-Man 138. Now, this, of course, is the first and only appearance, at least that I'm aware of. He may have crept up later. I mean, much later. But this is the Mind Worm. And the only reason this is on my list, it's not a great issue. It's not a bad issue. It's got a great cover. I think that looks like, is that Kane inked by Romita, or is it just Romita?
I believe it is. I think it is just Romita.
That's a sweet cover. That Spider-Man figure is really, really nice. But anyway, so this is the first Spider-Man comic I bought off the news rack. This is it. And so that's why I'm picking it as one of my single one-offs, because I was probably already enamored with Spider-Man at this time. So whether the story was great or not had very little impact on whether I would continue to buy it. It was just like, it was the first independent gesture. You know, I had $1. I went to a place called Plaid Pantry, which is kind of like a 7-Eleven here in Oregon, or at least it used to be. I don't even know if they're around anymore. I had $1, bought 4 comics. This, a Ghost Rider, an Avengers, and probably Captain America. But this was the only comic, Spider-Man, that I continued to buy throughout my collecting career with Spider-Man. So the other ones I buy here and there, but I always, every month, got Spider-Man. And this was the first one I bought. And I can't say anything else positive about it except that. No heart-wrenching story. I didn't cry at the end, but it is memorable to me for that reason. So I didn't even pull anything out of the interior because it's like, that's really not the point. But this, my next issue here, does have a little bit of emotional impact. Now, Spider-Man goes to France. I can't remember why.
I feel sorry for him.
Yeah, and he fights the French supervillain Cyclone. It's a brand new menace for Spidey to battle. And so I get this issue, but this is why I kept buying Spider-Man, was not because of great villains like the Cyclone, and I'm being a little bit facetious there, but because of this kind of human drama that just happened to appear inside the pages, where Peter Parker and Mary Jane first kiss. So this is what, maybe 10, 15 issues after Gwen Stacy has died. So about a year and a half.
This is 143. She died in 121. So that would be
20 issues. So about 2 years.
So almost 2 years since she died. Yes.
Yeah.
Of course, in comic book time, it's only about like 4 or 5 months.
It could be. Right. So here they are at the airport. He's going to France to fight the Cyclone. He doesn't know it yet, of course. Ross Andrew is our interior artist, who, of course, was the Spider-Man artist for me growing up, because he was doing all the Spidey books there in the 70s. But they're come here, Tiger, and kiss me. Big splash page. Well, not a big splash panel of their first kiss. And it seems to linger on to the next page. So maybe they really did have deep feelings.
Her reaction, wow.
Yeah. You why didn't you ever tell me you could kiss? I mean, wow. So apparently there's some built up emotion in those two that's finally let out here. Because Peter was dealing with a ton of guilt, for, the death of Gwen Stacy. And so this is like marks the time where he's finally starting to move on, and with, of course, soon to be supermodel Mary Jane Watson.
But of course, it doesn't last, because in the very next issue, the Gwen Stacy clone shows up, and they're all out the window now. The guilt is back.
Yeah, but there was a scene, and I thought it was this issue, but it wasn't. I can't remember. You might remember what issue it was. But he comes home to his apartment, and MJ's standing there waiting for him. And she says something like, "Did you miss me? I didn't know where we stood," or blah, blah, blah. And he says, "Come here and let me show you." And then the door closes behind him. And that's the last shot we get of his apartment door from the outside closing. So
I think that's issue 150. It's after he had fought the clone of himself, and the clone had died. And then he was wondering, wait a minute, how do I know I'm the real one? How do I know I'm not the clone? And then he ends up fighting, I think, the Sandman or somebody. And in the fight, all his feelings and thoughts are of Mary Jane. And he's like, I have to be the real one, because the clone would have feelings for Gwen, not for me.
Right.
Not for MJ, but I don't. I have feelings for Mary Jane. Therefore, I have to be the real one. And that's when he goes back and she's waiting for him. And, that's why he does that.
That's right. But this is where it started, and it sort of all came to fruition at the end of that issue. And it was the great soap opera in the Spider-Man comics that always kept me coming back. I mean, I love the action and the villains and all that kind of stuff, but I was always on the inside going, how are things going to work out for Peter Parker, right? And I think that's what made the entire series so popular, was how Peter Parker was the everyman and kind of facing problems that all of us seem to deal with. I invented a character called the Wizard, never got any traction for some reason.
Well, actually, Marvel already beat you to that. They already have
a Golden Age character, the Wizard. He was like super fast. But of course, me and the kids in the neighborhood, we'd always joke that, yeah, he could pee really quickly.
Of course, and then they got Pork Hunt over here about how that scene is laid out after the kiss.
Where is Pork Hunt? Oh, there. Notice no shots of Peter's jeans.
That's how you know Mary Jane can kiss.
Oh, that's great. Stat Zero. I ask myself if I'm a clone every day. Oh my goodness. Well, you should know, if you're Nostradamus, you should know if you're a clone or not. You should be able to tell the difference there.
I never asked myself that, because I figure, what clone would want to be me?
I know. There's nobody's cloning me, I can tell you that.
If there was a clone of me, he'd be saying, no, I'm somebody else. Really, I'm not them. Please,
James, I'm not that James. Oh my goodness. Okay, now we're getting into the 80s, right? And
this is a good one.
I really like this issue. And for some reason, it stuck with me over the years. Obviously, John Byrne wrote it. Arthur Adams drew it. And it's got this great little vampire story where this cute girl lives out in the swamp or something, and she's really a vampire. And she somehow, I can't remember exactly the circumstance. It's been so long since I read it, but somehow she clings on to Batman thinking he's like this sort of vampire father figure to her or whatever, and thinking he's a vampire as well. And of course, Superman gets involved, and this is the great scene where the girl's about to bite him, and he can't defend himself because his powers are useless against magic.
Yep.
Right. Which never really made sense to me. What does that have to do with anything about his superpowers? But that he doesn't have his powers against magic. I guess they had to give him something to make him vulnerable. But anyway, so this vampire chick's about to put the bite on him, and then wait a minute. Oops. Oh, I was going to show that page and I didn't because I thought this page was better. but so Batman comes up behind her and runs her through with this big stake, right? And there she is, kind of smoldering on the ground right there as she, turns to dust. And I love the dialogue in this page, right? And if I can take a page out of James' book, let me read the dialogue for you. Let's see. She said, "I saw you sink," and he goes, "In quicksand." But if you don't lose your head, you can swim in quicksand just like water. And then Superman's like, "Batman, I owe you my life." And Batman's like, "Yes, I suppose you do. Call it self-preservation, Superman. I don't much fancy the idea of a super vampire flying around." He's like, "No, I guess not. But thanks anyway. Don't mention it. Oh, and by the way, Superman, I'd get those scratches cleaned if I were you, with holy water if you can get it." Dun, 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 the end. But it was a great story.
Who knew Batman had a sense of humor?
I know. It's a great story. It's a great, fun little story. It's got Arthur Adams' art in it. I mean, it's like, what more Byrne wrote it? What more could you want, right? I mean, what a blast. So that's kind of stayed with me as a single shot issue that I read that I just kind of enjoyed. Didn't make me cry. Didn't change my life in any way, but I did enjoy it.
That kind of banner reminds me of like Tango and Cash, when you got like Stallone and Russell together in a movie, and it's like they're both tough guys, and so they gotta play the tough guy roles, and so they got that banner between them all the time. That's what that reminds me of. Yep,
it was really cool. I mean, I always liked that sort of antagonistic relationship between Batman and Superman that they always had. That they didn't really like each other, but they respected each other, and they got the job done. All right, now this one. This is my next couple choices are mainly because of art reasons, not story reasons. That's not a very good. That's a little blurry, but sorry, it was a small JPEG. But this is the Man-Bat story, the origin of the Man-Bat, by none other than Kevin Nolan. And Kevin penciled.
Just a quick side note here. Marcus Kilgrew asked, "Didn't Dick Giordano ink Art Adams on this one?" Yes, he did.
Yes, he did.
He did.
You are correct, sir. Pork Hunt. This is why Art Adams never did the Uncanny X-Men annual for the Atlantis Attacks crossover. Because of Byrne?
Because he did the action annual, but with the Atlantis Attacks annual would have been in '89, and this one, that annual was from '87. So how would that have gotten in the way of him doing the Atlantis Attacks one? I don't understand.
I don't know. Maybe he's referring to he didn't have a good relationship with Byrne. I have no idea.
Oh, here we go. You got your $5 super chat from Pork Hunt.
Well, Pork Hunt, thank you for the $5. It's very kind of you. If Superman was bitten by a vampire, wouldn't they immediately die? What with his cells being powered by sunlight and photosynthesis?
That's an interesting question. His sunlight is where he gets his power from. He's basically like a giant solar battery.
Wow.
So if you bit into him and you got the blood's going to be, energized with that solar energy.
That's some deep creative thinking right there. Unfortunately, I'll never be writing a Superman story, so I couldn't do it, but I would steal that idea if I could. Thank you, $5. That is actually a really good idea.
But the funny part about that annual is Batman was worried about Superman becoming a vampire, and yet several years later, Kelly Jones would do the story Red Rain, where Batman becomes a vampire.
Everybody's a vampire. All right. So with this story, though, let me show you a couple interior pages, if I may. Now, this is during the good old days where we just had to use flat color. Now, Kevin Nolan penciled, inked, and colored this story. And his old partner, Jan Sternad, how do you pronounce that? Sternad? Jan Sternad? Did a lot of these short stories that Nolan illustrated, but just a simplistic approach to the color. But his color choices are so good.
Yeah, you can tell the color is muted, but it actually works with the art style.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I love his color choices. He doesn't use garish, overpowering colors, and this is stuff that is attractive to me because I do the same thing. I don't like really bright, garish colors. I prefer muted, softer tones, and just the great use of white in this. It just
and the shadows. I mean, where the shadows are placed, like on that wall behind Man-Bat and on Batman's cowl. I mean, it's perfectly done.
Yeah, he is. Kevin Nolan, if you're not familiar with his work, he doesn't do a lot of. In fact, I don't know if he's ever done a big project, but he shows up in weird places like the origin of Man-Bat and Secret Origins and backup stories here and there. But his work is brilliant, and
Nolan actually inked Dan Lawless on one of his favorite jobs that he ever done was.
It was fantastic. 18. Yeah, Cloak and Dagger, right?
Yeah, Cloak and Dagger with the X Factor crew showing up in the end. Yep. And Dan says that was like one of the best ink jobs he ever got. He's like, hey, can we get this guy for all the issues now?
You're like, nah, he's moving on. Sternad, there you go.
Funny story about Jan Sternad. Back in 2004, 2005, I was working at a collectible shop here, and I ran the online sales. I did eBay for them. And I sold something off of eBay to Jan Sternad. And when I always gave people notifications, like, hey, your stuff has been shipped, so you know it's coming. And I said, hey, your stuff is on the way, it's been shipped. I say, by the way, are you the same Jan Sternad who wrote the Marvel series Stalkers? And he emailed me back and goes, thanks for letting me know. He goes, and yes, I am. And thanks for making my day. Somebody remembered the book, I guess.
I know. Stat Zero says that Kevin Nolan did the Alien Superman. Well, yeah, he inked him over.
He inked over Jurgens.
And it was great. And as I recall,
he also inked Quesada on Batman Sword of Azrael.
Yes, he made Quesada look fantastic. And Quesada is good. Don't get me wrong, but he really made him look good on that. And then, especially for one of his first early jobs. And I remember, if I recall, Dan Jurgens not being too pleased with, or I had heard that he wasn't too pleased with Aliens because Kevin Nolan just totally took over his work. But it's like, dude, that's why you get Kevin Nolan's, because you want him to take over your work.
Yeah, like Dan Lawless said, he said that's one of the instances where he goes, most times if you're lucky, if you get an inker who understands you, that's good enough. Like, okay, he gets what I'm trying to do. He goes, rarely do you ever get an inker who improves upon what you've done. He goes, but that for him was one of those rare exceptions with Kevin Nolan inking him.
Oh, I would go nuts to have Kevin ink just like one of my stories so I could. Anyway, here's another page. And again, you see the sort of muted color palette and yet how effective it is. And his black placement and stuff. It just, I just really dig Nolan. Nolan's kind of like coffee. He's an acquired taste, but then once you acquire that taste, you get addicted to it. And so I highly recommend it.
$10. Holy crap. He's blowing money left and right.
Pork Hunt. Thank you for 10. I appreciate that, man. Very, very much. I never understood vampires being alluring. Needing blood means no proper circulatory system, so they're effectively zombies. Only wood they'll ever get is in their clavicle. The only wood they'll ever get is in their clavicle.
Well, I think maybe I can't disagree with him on his thesis here. That's probably pretty much true. But I think the whole thing of the allure of vampires, I think the whole thing of like the blood, you get it from the neck, so it's almost like you're necking. that's kind of sensual, and just the act of bloodletting that way, that closeness. It's very like very intimate.
I would agree. Yeah,
And I
biting
think
somebody on the neck. It's a
why,
very intimate thing. Yeah.
yeah, and that's why I
But
think they have that allure about them, that quote unquote that sexiness about vampires that none of the other monsters seem to ever get.
But I think that Pork Hunt paid $10 to get his joke in, and that was a $10 joke, and I appreciate it, Pork. Appreciate it very much. The same guy who wrote Meatloaf lyrics. I don't know what that's referring to, but
Is it Sternad? Did Sternad write actual lyrics for Meatloaf?
I don't believe that. I think Pastmaster Dan is messing with me. That would be funny if it's true, though.
Well, here you yeah, Vampirella.
See, now look what's.
But then again, don't forget, she's not this typical vampire. She's not.
She's an alien.
Vampire.
That's right. She's an alien and all sorts of weird
from
things.
Another planet that has sort of like vampiristic type tendencies, but she can go out in the sunlight.
Yeah.
She can do all that. She's not like, a standard, supernatural Earth vampire. So that's probably why she gets away with it.
That's right. And she's incredibly well drawn by Jose Gonzalez. So, okay. So there's my big recommendation. If you're looking for like a hidden away gem, get that Secret Origins 39 with The Man Bad Origin by Kevin Nolan and Jan Sternad. All right. Here's my last choice for the day. And again, this is more art related than it is anything else. And I'll have you know, I didn't pick one of my issues of Sludge. I was going to, but I didn't.
I was waiting for something, Aaron, in there, and it's like, no, he didn't pick one. Wow.
No, I was tempted to take Sludge number 5, the Frankenstein issue, which I wrote and drew as being one of my favorite single issues. But anyway, this issue of Doctor Strange by Michael Golden just rocks. Got a great cover by Golden right here. He did another issue. I'm trying to remember if it was, I think it was 58, where he had a backup story inked by P. Craig Russell. But the story, he did the entire issue for 55, and it's inked by Terry Austin, and it is killer. So let's take a look at a couple interior pages. I came across the black and white splash page, not in color, but black and white reproduction of the artwork, which just goes to show you how cool. We got some Zipatone back there. But this is Golden sort of at his pinnacle when he was just really nailing it. And just the detail and the storytelling and just camera angles, just everything was just tremendous. And to me, this is maybe his single greatest issue is this Doctor Strange 55. I'm sure that's open for debate, but the art in this is just something else. It's like when you get a book like this, you don't even care what the story is. You'll just look at the pictures. Here's another page. This one's colored to give you an idea of some of the work he was doing at the time on this project. Look at this 3-panel sequence.
Yeah.
This is freaking awesome.
I mean, that hand in the third panel up at
the
top, that is just wow.
Yeah. And the detail on it and the lighting, again, another guy who does a great job of his black placement and using shadows and stuff. And in this book, it's just page after page of really, really cool visuals.
Oh yeah, I'm not sure who the colorist was, but man, to have to color that is like, wow, that's time and a half job right there.
I wonder if Golden colored it himself, because it kind of looks like it's sort of got a sort of his vibe to it. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look. I wonder, was it on the that original art had the credits page? Let's see. No, Glynis Wein colored it, who was a stable back there in the Marvel in the 80s. Did a lot of color, but
quite often in the 80s.
Yeah, she did a nice job in this, though. This is really, really cool stuff. So again, if you guys are looking for some of those hidden gems out there that maybe you hadn't seen before, check out Doctor Strange 55. It's an inexpensive book, but boy, it's a tremendous piece of work. And Pastmaster is correct. Golden does rock.
Oh, here you go, Mark Burtonshaw. How did he do that gradient gray?
That was what's called Zipatone. You used to be able to buy these sheets of film that were sticky on the back, and they would have dot patterns on them. And you could take an X-Acto knife and cut them in any shape you wanted, and then stick them on the background of your comic or whatever. And that's how they did those dot patterns. Something called Zipatone. Now you can do it in Photoshop, so you don't need the zip. But and you can see it. You can see it right here, back here. This crosshatch back here. I don't know if that's. Yeah, that's a Zipatone, and it looks like he has some crosshatch over the top of it, or some line work over the top of it. So yeah, there's these zip patterns, and they're just basically dot patterns or line patterns of varying thickness and thin. And you could you'd go into an art supply store, and they'd have flat files full of Zipatone. You just pull the drawer out, and you'd look for a pattern that you liked, and you'd take it and you just cut it out. It's like sticky film, and put it on your page wherever you wanted the effect. So that is what that is. That's the old school way of doing it. Like I said, now you can do any of that stuff in Photoshop. You don't need the Zipatone, but that's how we used to do it back when I had hair. So Doc Strange, Man of Bronze, mystical Man of Bronze.
That's right.
Oh my goodness! Well,
mystical Master of Bronze.
That's right. There you go. The mystical Master of Bronze. There's probably really, if you think about like one-shot issues and things, a lot of guys brought stuff up in the chat too. There's probably 100 different choices of really, really good one-shot comics.
There's lots of great stuff out there. I mean, we just gave you guys some of our favorites, but I mean, there's tons of. But but notice, look at what we did. We all went back to the 80s and the 70s. There's a whole lot of that stuff today, and that's kind of the point. Is these are all great stories, and again, you suggested with mine, there's always like a great little moral in there or something that they somehow worked in, so it all ties it all together in a nice little bow for you. And I love that about that to me is the ultimate experience of a comic. You get the comic. You get a complete story with a little moral in there, and a lot of action, and a lot of drama, and it makes you go, "Wow, that was awesome! I can't wait to see what the next one's going to be."
We grew up, and I assume you were after me, of course, but we're still in that same sort of area where, we would take lit classes in high school or whatever, and you had to read short stories, and you had to read stuff like O. Henry and all these different things, and that's a perfect example of a graphic short story is a single issue story that's complete within itself and has a little moral tale to it that, a lot of times you would have those single issues would end up being like fill-in artists, right? To give the other artist a break, and they were just crap. But every once in a while you got ones that were really well thought out and really executed single issue stories that were really really nice. So, all right. So you've got some original artwork you want to share with us today.
Yes.
And I've got on hang on here, my desktop is a bit of a mess. There we go. Do you want me to show the color or black and white first?
We'll go with the black and white, but here, still only 35 cents says they cared about writing then. Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
They did.
Yeah. Back in the good old days, right?
Back in the good old days of 1989, they cared about writing.
That's right. Well, here's some about some art. Here's some original art.
Yes, this is my piece. Again, keeping with our theme of Done in One Stories. This is from issue number 2 of Semper Fi, a very short-lived war comic from Marvel based on the Marine Corps. And this is in each issue was 2 stories. There was the main story that was usually either drawn or inked by the great John Severin.
Right, I remember when Semper Fi.
And then there was a backup story that was done by the lesser known but just as much a part of the war history of comics, Sam Glanzman. And that's what this page is from. And this is supposedly from a story that takes place during the Battle of Tarawa. And it's called a War Correspondent. So it's about you can see the guy here with a camera. That's who the story is about. But this page here, I just love it. It kind of gives you everything that's about war comics. Here they are. They're rushing the pillbox. They're dropping down. They're trying to find cover. And then he's like, can we get around him? He goes, nah. The only way is straight down him. And the guy's like, no, that's suicide. He goes, no one lives forever. It's just like the whole guts and glory of war, and men are men, and fighting forces. It's a perfect encapsulation of, like, to me, everything about war comics in one single page.
Yeah.
And Glanzman's style is very minimalist. I mean, you see, there's a lot of detail in there, but there's like not a lot of like real deep dark blacks. There's not a lot of like fanciness and high detail like you might get with some guys, like say like Golden doing the Nam.
Right.
None of that kind of stuff. It's very utilitarian style, and yet, yeah, there you go. I ain't got no time to bleed. That's right.
Predator,
That's
baby.
Right. But I love this, and again, just like the facial expressions and just he even with just a minimalist style that Glanzman had, he was able to pack so much raw power and emotion in the scene. It feels almost like an underground comic, and yet this was published by a major publisher at the time. And again, it really kind of stands out to me that way.
Yeah. I remember because the Nam was such a phenomenal hit when it came out that's when they launched Semper Fi shortly after that. And I remember seeing all those great, Severin covers and stuff. And I bought the first couple issues. I'm not a big war comics guy. I know some people are really kind of into war comics. I never was one of those guys, but because I always had to have some sort of supernatural element to my reading to make it more interesting for me. But this was a good series. And that's really cool that you got this page. But I didn't know Glanzman was doing backup.
Yeah, he did. I think almost every issue, I believe, had a backup by him in it. So,
that's
and the main stories were, like I said, he either penciled and inked by John Severin, or he like inked it. Because I know there was one story in there that was penciled by Andy Kubert, and it was inked by John Severin.
Oh, really?
So
now that I'd like to see.
Kubert and Severin in the same issue.
I would love to see that. Wow. Do you remember what issue that was?
I believe it was issue 4. Issue 4 or issue 5. One of those, 4 or 5.
I'm going to check that out. I'm going to do some 4 or 5 when we're done, because I would love to see that. And I'd also love to see this. Pork Hunt, again, throwing money my way. Pork Hunt, thank you so much. I can get a big pork dinner tonight thanks to your contributions. Another story idea for Pinching Aaron. Revisit F4 origin and explain how Sue adjusted to being able to see after becoming invisible as light. Oh, invisible as light not reflecting off retina means she would start out blind. Sounds like Pork Hunt is more like Science Hunt. He's ruining all of our comics with his like knowledge.
My answer to that is just it's cosmic rays.
That's right. Cosmic rays, come on.
They can do anything.
Yeah, cosmic rays, gamma rays, they do a lot. There's a lot going on there. But once again, Pork Hunt pays $10 to ruin our childhood. Thank you. Appreciate it very much.
Craig Smith here.
Craig Smith says, hello, guys. My favorite single issue comic was a Daredevil issue I read when I was first introduced to Black Panther. One of T'Challa's relatives sent word that his in-law had a bad gambling debt.
That was I think that was like around like issues like 60, somewhere around there, like either the late 50s or like the mid 60s, somewhere in like those issues. So this would have been early Daredevil.
Yeah, I was going to say that, Craig, you look awfully young to be reading a comic book that old, but I respect you for it, because that's all I read is old comics. I'm trying to think, because I had a whole collection of Daredevil.
Oh, here you go. Derek WC helps you out, Aaron. It's Semper Fi that has Severin and Kubert. There it is.
Okay. Now, who can help us out on this Daredevil question now? Because this has got me. Thank you, Derek WC, for that, by the way. Hello. Let's see. Let's get back to this for a second. Daredevil. Did Black Panther actually cross over in that issue? Because I can't remember for the life of me. Daredevil.
There was an issue early in Daredevil's run, like I said, somewhere like in I think the late 50s or early mid 60s, where there was an issue where Black Panther was in it. I think that's the one he's talking about. And if that's the case, that would have put it like the Daredevil came out in 60. Number 1 was 64, so that would put it sometime like around like 1969, 1970, somewhere around there is where this issue takes place. So like this is very early in Daredevil's run. Yeah,
this is driving me nuts, because I had a complete collection as a kid of Daredevil. Well, I didn't have number 1, but I had like 5 and up. And I'm trying to remember this issue. And the thing about the bad gambling debt rings a bell, but I'm trying to remember if maybe like T'Challa showed up, but he wasn't in costume or something. Because I don't remember there being a Daredevil with like a Black Panther on the cover of a
Yeah, see,
Daredevil.
there is Davis Comics. I have a DD with Black Panther on the cover, issue 50 something. Yes, it's right around there. Like I think like somewhere between like I want to say it's the issue is somewhere between say issue 55 and
50 something's not good enough, Davis. We need specific numbers. Somebody help me out here. This is driving me nuts. Craig, you're making my brain hurt. And T'Challa found out his in-law resorted to robbing tech companies in order to pay off the debt, and Daredevil confronted the in-law, but T'Challa told Didi to stay out of it, and he refused, of course, because Daredevil would refuse.
Yes, Marcus Kilgrew guy. Yes, it was a Barry Smith who drew that issue. I do remember that much. Yes, that is correct.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
Early Barry Smith though. This is pre Conan Barry Smith.
Right. This would have been around Daredevil 55, 54, somewhere in that neighborhood. You're right. You're right.
50s. Yes.
Yep. There you go. Daredevil 52 has Black Panther. Derek comes through in the clutch. So there we go. 52.
Yeah, that would be like 1969, I think.
Why is that cover not coming up in my mind? It's driving me nuts. We're going to take a look at the cover right now because I can't stand it anymore. Oh my gosh. You guys are right. Not that I ever doubted you, but I doubted you a little bit, I guess, because I could not place it. But here it is. Let's take a look. It's again not a great scan or it's not big enough, but we'll be able to see it good enough. I mean, it's not as big as I'd like it, but anyway, there you go. And that is Barry Smith doing his best Kirby impersonation. 52. Yeah. There it is. The Night of the Panther.
12-cent cover. It was still in the 60s. Yep. I think this is like 60 May. That cover date is May of 69, I believe.
Yeah. So 52. Yeah, that would have been. Was Daredevil monthly or would it start off as bi-monthly?
I think it started out. It wasn't monthly when it first started, but shortly after it got into its run, it became monthly. So it's pretty close. So yeah, I guess that's why. Don't forget they were dated in advance, so they were like this must have came out like either like February or January of 69.
Yeah, because they switched
to May.
I think the 15 centers started in 70 or 71. 70, I think, is when it switched to 15 cents. So this would have had to have been 69, but there it is. We found it. Craig Smith got us on a Easter egg hunt, but we finally found it. And yes, that's an early Barry Smith.
Hey, wait a minute, Paul. Is that a low-key racist shot? What is that?
Paul still had DD1, not hood condition.
Hood condition? What is he trying to say?
Wait a minute. What is he saying? Still have DD, not hood condition, but I've got maybe I don't think he meant to put a hood in there.
What's he trying to say?
I don't know. So T'Challa kicked his butt. Afterwards, the in-law cleaned up his act, got a job, his act together, and the wife started talking to him again. It was a great issue. There you go. So, but I mean, it is cool how,
too.
It's very cool how sometimes those issues, a certain issue, for whatever reason, will have some sort of emotional impact on you or resonate with you in a certain way, and you never forget it. And
speaking of never forget it, let's not forget to put up the color version of my page just so people can see what it looked like in full color.
Oh, that's right. Let's do that. So we there it is. We got off kind of on a that rabbit hole of finding that DD issue because I couldn't take it. I had to know. Let's see here. There it is in color. And again, this is a really nice color job because it's not overly done. You know, it's just nice.
No.
And I really like that. That looks nice. I wonder if it was Glynis again who did the coloring. Wouldn't that be funny?
Look at all that work, and then Craig Smith blows it for us all, right there.
Oh, Craig, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
45.
After all that, so I knew he was way too young to have read something that old. Now I got to find it.
It doesn't mean he could have read it years later. It's
I suppose, but see, that's why it didn't.
That's an Ann Nesenti story, by the way.
Yeah, that would have been right during her.
Early in her run.
Yeah, she's an interesting character. What number was that? 250. What did he say there? I'm on another screen. What number is it?
The number is number 245. I know the cover. it's got this guy in yellow armor and he's fighting, and he's got Black Panther and Daredevil both on one on either side, like grabbing at his arm, trying to pull at him and stuff. And
Oh, okay.
I know the issue.
Well, you really got me going on a rabbit hole, dude, for this. But so much for your original artwork. Who cares? Let's find out what this Daredevil's going on here. Here's the there it is.
See, told you, there it is.
There it is. All right, Craig, we finally got it figured out. Thank you.
The good, the bad, and the blind.
Now, Pork Hunt is apparently going to pay for my dessert today, along with my pork dinner. Thank you again for the $5. It's very kind of you. Aaron and Jim, a future video should be your favorite single-issue licensed comic. Jim, when are you going to write a crowdfunded comic? Okay,
I don't know. I've thought about it, but I'm like, I don't think I have any real backing behind me. Like, Aaron's got almost 2,000 subscribers here, which is why we do the show on his channel. Mine has 150. So, I'm not so sure how big of a crowdfunded comic by me would be going if I tried to do one. I'm not gonna be getting 150K like Aaron did, I don't think.
Oh, well, it's a tough road out there, the indie road. I was very, very thankful and very grateful that it worked out as well as it did. Man Thing number 1, just out of the blue, Joe Swaim is throwing Man Thing number 1 out there.
Well, at least not the giant-sized one.
That's right. Now, I have both Man Thing number 1 and giant-sized Man Thing number 1 in my collection. So, just to clarify that. All right. So
now your art. What have you got for us?
Well, it's funny you should ask. It's funny you should ask what I have. I happen to have a piece of my own artwork.
Well, I guess since you didn't have yourself in your favorite single issues, I guess you had to get yourself in somehow.
All right. Okay. I'm going to now in full Aaron Lopresti mode take over the screen for a moment. And, well, no, we were talking about single issues, right? Single issue stories.
Yeah.
And so I wrote, penciled, and inked this Batman story for Legends of the Dark Knight. This was first released digitally and then in a trade paperback and also in 100-page giants that they put out of all the digital stuff. They repackaged it to sell it on the stands, as they say. And so I had these 3 pages that weren't concurrent, but they had the exact same layout, and they were all with villains. One has the Joker. They're 2-page sequences, one with the Joker, one with Killer Croc, and one with Clayface. And I used the Bruce Timm Clayface because that's my favorite.
Of course. And
so the layouts are all the same for every one of the villains, right? So you have the villain in shadow, then a medium close-up as we see him better, then a extreme close-up, and then the action shot with Batman. And so I sold all the other ones like a good capitalist mercenary that I am, but I kept the Clayface because I love Clayface. So this is, of course, a single issue called I, Batman. And it's kind of a Batman Frankenstein story, which, what a shock, me doing a monster story. But yeah, so this is when I came to mind thinking, do I have a piece of art from a one-shot or a single issue that I did, story, self-contained? I went, yeah, I do. And I drew it. So that's what we're going to share.
You didn't drag out one of the Spider-Man stories you did in those backups you've done.
Oh, God, no, we don't want to go back that far. That's when
you need a retelling of the origin, for God's sake.
I know, but it's not quite up to the standards that I've set for myself these days. So I don't like to go back and remind people that, oh yeah, Aaron used to suck really badly. But anyway, so this was fun. Anytime you get to,
I like the first 2 panels where first he's all in silhouette and then he kind of steps out into the light. I like that.
Yeah. Thank you. Look at that veiny forehead, all that. I don't know if the clay would have veins, but gosh darn it, I put it in there. Because it was
the
fun.
clay won't have veins, but he does.
That's right. There you go. So anyway, that's my art that I'm sharing. Because unlike you, James, I don't have a ton of pages. I have some original art pages. I have a bunch of sketches or commissions or pieces I bought off people just randomly. But I have more illustration type stuff than I do comic book pages. So I'm going to have to start filling in with sketch art and different
that would
types
be
of
great.
things because I don't have the comic
And
book
I have
pages either.
illustration art too. I mean, if you want to do something where you want us to both do something illustrative in it, I can do that. I got illustrations I can throw in.
Okay, all right.
So just drop the word, and look at this, $500 confirmed.
Funny. I sold the Joker page for about that, but no, that baby ain't for sale. Thank you, though, for the offer. Can you still email about pages? Yes, you can. It's not entirely up to date. I'm in the process of getting my webpage redone, but so some of the pages that are listed for sale are already gone. They haven't been corrected yet, but you are more than welcome. Anytime you find something on there you're interested about, email me and I'll tell you if I got it or not. Craig says Daredevil 242 came out in August 1987. I was 8.
Yeah.
Going on 9 2 months later. So yeah, I told my age. Well, yeah, but it's way younger than my age, pal. So enjoy
actually, no. The Daredevil 242 is dated August of '87, but it came out earlier than that.
Okay, there you go. Pork Hunt says clay has veins when it dries. So there you go. There you go. Oh, I don't even want to get into this. I don't even want to. Oh.
Yes, Pork Hunt. It is a family show. Thank you for acknowledging that.
Yes, appreciate it. The clay face with the plastic bag over his head was the creepiest. That was was that the Golden Age?
Clayface 3, yeah, the one with the touch that will turn you to like a pool of gelatinous goo.
Yeah, he was creepy. I remember there was a issue like in the 90s. It was an annual, and I'm trying to think of I want to say Norm Brayfogle did it. In fact, I'm sure he did, but it had all 3 clay faces on the cover of the annual.
The storyline, Detective Comics 604 through 607, the Mud Pack.
That's what it was. Yes.
That's probably one of my favorite Batman stories ever. Is the Mud Pack. I love all 4 of the clay faces. The original actor, the second one, the one that you drew there, the third one with the melting touch, and then the fourth one, it was a woman who could not only take on the shape of other things, but if they were like superpowered, she could mimic their powers as well.
And the original Clayface, the Golden Age one, was like kind of more of a disguise guy, right? He had
he wore a mask that looked like a melted face or whatever, and that's why he called Clayface, because he had that, but he was an actor.
Okay. There you go.
And he was actually the one behind the whole bringing them all together, all the clay faces together.
Yeah, I had that. I remember reading it, but that was vague to the details, as I haven't revisited it in quite some time.
Because they also guest starred Looker from The Outsiders was part of that story.
Look at you go! You are a veritable encyclopedia.
What's that?
You're like encyclopedia of comic knowledge. It's very impressive.
It's what I've spent 35 years reading comics, Aaron. It's what I know. It's all I know.
Now, if you could just make a living with that kind of knowledge, right? It's just, geez.
Well, how about somebody start a game show based on comic book knowledge where you can win tens of thousands of dollars? I will go on the show and I will be the ultimate, like the highest winner ever in the history of the game.
There you go. I love it. You and Mark Waid would be against each other in the final challenge. Okay, so
I don't know if I'd want that. He might have a hissy fit on camera if like I beat him.
That's true.
He's known for his meltdowns.
That is also very true. We have done our favorite single issue stories. We've shared a little art. Now it's time to tell a little tale. So, Sequential Treasures, give us a story con related that you might share with us.
Okay. This one's a little personal, just like how the stories that you saw, me pick my issues, favorite one shots, how I like something like a personal resonance, a personal connection of emotion. This has that too, but it's not my story so much as it's the wife's story. And I'm going to tell this story now because you guys don't know this. This month, the 8th was my wedding anniversary, and the 22nd was her birthday. So since this is kind of her month, as I kind of view it, I'm going to make the story, my con story is going to be about her. Which, of course, I'm sure Aaron understands all too well because every time he does something, it's always about Shelley.
That's right. I don't have a good con story that doesn't involve someone forgetting me and remembering Shelley. But
Well, you say, what's the first thing people say to you when they meet you? What's Shelley really like? See, there it is. That's the first thing they ask.
Very true. So
anyway,
anyway,
this is 2009, Emerald City, and this was the 1 year I didn't have a table at the show. I'd been getting tables at the show. I had them from 2005 through 2014 every year. 2009 was the 1 year I didn't get one. And to get into the show early, I have a friend who was connected to the Hero Initiative, and he was working the booth there. And he says, hey, since I'm running the booth, you guys, I'll make you sort of my lackeys, and you can come in and help me set everything up, and that way you can get in before everyone else. And all right, cool, that works. So Friday, this is when it was still just a 2-day show. It was Saturday and Sunday. So we came in on Friday to start setting everything up. And I swear to God, no sooner did we get to the booth than she got a phone call. And her grandfather had passed away. And, she was very close to him. And, this wasn't a surprise. He had been ill for a while. This wasn't some Greek tragedy. Oh, my God, a bolt from the blue. We kind of saw this was coming, but, she was still very close with him. So the next day, first day of the show, she's smiling with people and being pleasant and all. But, as you know, with yourself, Aaron, being married, there's just you can always tell when your significant other just isn't themselves. You can just feel it. Mm-hmm. And I could tell that was this for her because, her grandfather passing. So I wanted to do something to give her a positive memory of the show. I didn't want the show to be like, oh, yeah, that's where I heard my grandfather died. I didn't want that to be her memory. So I'm thinking what I can do. And my friend inadvertently helped me out with that because when we were unpacking stuff, one of the Hero Initiative shirts had this like little mark on it. I mean, it was no big deal. If you probably washed it would have came off. But he said, well, we can't sell it like this in this condition. He goes, so tell you what, why don't you take this shirt and go around the show and get as many creators as you can to sign it, and then we'll raffle it off later, which they actually did at another show. I think it was Heroes Con that year or something. They took this shirt that I got autographed by I think it was 40 different creators who were at the show that weekend, and they raffled it off there. Well, while I'm out there getting signatures, one of the people at the show is Frank Cho. So when I go into Frank's line there to get him to sign a shirt, Frank knows us because a few years earlier we had been at a show with Frank and we had this great experience with him after the show, which I'll save for another comic story for another time, another con story. But he knows us. So when he went up there and did it, I got him to sign it. I looked at him, I said, can you do me a favor? And he's like, what's that? I go, look, my wife just found out yesterday her grandfather died, and she was very close with him. And I say, and I can tell she's not being her usual self because of that today. I say, so I wanted to have a positive memory from this show. So could you do a Wonder Woman sketch for her? And Frank, I said, I know you don't normally do this because if anyone who knows, years ago, Frank stopped doing sketches because people would take them and then go home and throw them up on eBay. Mm-hmm. And I said, but you know us. I say, she's not going to sell this. I say, could you just bend the rule and just for her, just because I want to give her something positive. And he said he would do it. And so he did. And so then the next day, Sunday, we go into the table, and just as everything's opening up, I grab her. I say, hey, come with me. And she goes, where are we going? I go, just trust me. And I bring her over to Frank's table, and he presents her with this lovely sketch of Wonder Woman by Frank Cho. And she almost cried when she got it. And I told her, I said, I wanted to have some happy memory of this show. I didn't want you to feel like this was just a show where you learned your grandfather died. And she thanked Frank, she thanked me, and then Frank, of course, Frank being Frank, he gives her the sketch. He goes, he said you'd show me your boobs if I did the sketch. And then she looks over at me with this look of like, what? And so I had to cover for it. So I just looked at her and said, well, it's a Frank Cho original. It's worth it.
That's right. You kidding me?
That's Frank Cho for you right there.
Yep.
This warm, tender moment, and then
Yep. Oh, that's funny. Well, let's see. Do I have a good Frank Cho story? I do, but
but it's a family show.
I know. So I'm gonna pass on that. No, what came to mind for I don't know what reason, but the late great Paul Ryan, who was a very good friend of mine. We were. What show were we at? Was it a Boston show? I can't remember, but he was sitting down from me away several tables on one side of the, this aisle, and I was up on the other. And I'm drawing some sketches. I mean, I look up and walking, kind of strolling by leisurely is the actor who played the Rocketeer. Help me out here. Somebody in the chat who played the Rocketeer, the really nice guy. Someone in the chat. I'm waiting. I know there's a time delay, so we're just like waiting for someone to jump in.
Well,
and
I just want to hear your Leg Kick. Thank you, Leg Kick. It's 22 years, and they said it would never last, and so I enjoy proving people wrong every single year.
There you go. All right. Well, hey, happy anniversary. That's great. 22 years, man. Shelly and I are be 30 this year. So, wow. Yeah, Billy Campbell. I'm sure. Jim Carrey. So close, Eric. So close.
Well, he's closer than Judge Dredd.
Yeah, it's true.
Stallone.
What do I look at?
Stallone is the Rocketeer.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to blast off.
How did we get from the Rocketeer to Judge Dredd? But anyway, so Bill Campbell's walking by, and then through the crowd comes racing Paul Ryan, and he starts talking to him. And I'm watching this, going, what's going on? And there was something had happened at Paul's table, and he wanted to come up, and he didn't realize it was Billy Campbell until after he was gone, and so he was chasing him down to, talk to him. And so he said they're talking to him, and they're talking about one of the television shows that he was on or something. And Paul said, "Oh yeah, I saw you in this show." And it wasn't the show that Billy was in. And so I chimed in and I said, because they were standing close to my table. That's where I got up and kind of forced myself in on the conversation and said, Paul, if you're going to chase a celebrity down the middle of a con, at least know what shows they're on. And we all had a good laugh and everything. And yeah, we sat there and chatted with Billy Campbell out right in the middle of, this aisle of people walking, by, and we sat there and, had a 5-minute conversation with him about, his experiences with the Rocketeer. And then I said, I'm sure you hear this a million times. I said, but I love the Rocketeer, man. I thought you were great in that. And he goes, look, I can never hear that enough. It's totally fine. And then we talked a little about the show that he was on at the time. And then we all went on our merry way. But I don't know, for some reason that had just popped into my mind recently. And it was a great example of Paul Ryan's at times naivete that got him into trouble, and we'd always laugh at that type of thing. And then also just how often you run into celebrities at Comic-Cons, and generally how most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, they're pretty good guys or pretty good people, and
here we go. What is it? Gnomeski has a little story here for us too.
No.
Billy Campbell dated Jennifer Connelly for like 5 years while filming The Rocketeer. What a lucky guy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, she was sensational. She was beautiful. I wanted to where is it now? Doggone it. Yeah, Craig Smith coming late. But Craig had said earlier that he's now reading the Neil Adams Green Lantern stuff that he did with
Denny O'Neil.
Denny O'Neil. And wow, how great it is. And it was great stuff. So I'm glad to see Craig is now getting back out of the 80s, back into the 70s, and getting some of that classic
great stuff. A little preachy at times, but it is great stuff.
Yeah, it is. Well, it was that sort of that was that kind of hippie liberal mindset that was very prominent in society.
That awakening social consciousness stuff.
Right. And so, but that was great stuff. Of course, Neil's artwork, you can't go wrong. So there you have it. And Jiminy Cricket finally shows up at the end of the show.
Well, no, here you go. Jiminy Cricket says Jennifer Connelly was the number one reason to watch the movie.
No, he says she was the top.
She was the top two reasons
to watch The Rocketeer, if you know what I'm saying.
Daniel Craig, Jennifer Connelly in The Rocketeer is the reason I went through puberty.
Now, is that 007 Daniel Craig, you think?
I hope not, because I didn't care for his version of Bond.
Oh, now you see, don't take a chance. You're insulting. Maybe we have the Daniel Craig on the show, and you're insulting.
I like some other stuff he's done. I just didn't care for his Bond.
If I
were to meet celebrities like on a regular type of thing, I'd want to do something like mention something that like is like lesser known stuff that they've done. Like
right.
not the thing like for example, let's just take one. I know I was at a show where Brent Spiner was. I didn't get to meet him, but if I saw Brent Spiner, I'd be like, oh my God, you're Brent Spiner, star of Night Court. Remember that Bob and June Wheeler, those characters? I just throwaway characters don't mean too much, but yet that's what you remember them for. It's like you know what everyone's gonna say. Oh, you're this character. That's what everyone knows you for. But no, I'll mention something that people won't remember.
Well, that's how I endear myself to like classic artists that I want to get to know, like Stranko. The first time I talked to him, the first thing I brought up to him was his House of Tower of Shadows story that he did from Tower of Shadows #1, which is just fantastic. And he was like, oh, really? And so we started talking about that, and now we're buddies. But so yeah, it's always nice to kind of bring up like their more obscure work because they appreciate it. It shows that you really follow their career and you're really aware of what they're doing.
I just figured just that they appreciate hearing something else for a change,
Right.
Like, going to Brent Spiner. Oh yeah, you're Data from Star Trek: Next Generation. Like, yeah, I know that. Everyone knows that. But oh yeah, the star of Night Court. Oh, someone remembers that. I've done other things. They remember I've done other things.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not just Data. I've contributed other things.
Like Bob Denver. He'd be like, oh God, you're Bob Denver, star of I Dream of Jeannie. He was on an episode of I Dream of Jeannie. It's like, oh, he remembered something else.
Well, wait a minute. You could go back and say he was on Dobie Gillis.
Yeah, but that's another
big. Gilligan's Island.
Gillis and Gilligan is what he's known for. Do you want to hit something that's like not so well known? And that's Jonathan Frakes. Oh my God, you're Jonathan Frakes, star of The Dukes of Hazzard.
Oh, that's good.
Which in a way though is a great thing because I was kind of jealous of him because he got to Mac out on Daisy. It's like, oh man.
No, there you go. Spiner was the star of Spiner was the star of Independence Day too, so he could have brought that up.
He was the crazy scientist.
The O'Neil Adams Batman stuff is what I've been reading. It's great stuff. I was born in 1978, so I remember I would buy comics at the gas station newsstand when I was living in Chicago. The good old days of buying comics off the newsstand.
Portcon, I love that. That's something I would do, but only like to a super mega star, someone who's super big that they wouldn't want to remember. Yeah,
bring up the work they're most embarrassed about.
Like for example, let me think of somebody like, oh my God, you're Jennifer Aniston, star of Leprechaun. You're Johnny Depp, star of Private Resort.
Hey, look at this. Jonathan Frakes used to play Captain America during the live appearances for Marvel Comics. I didn't know that.
I did not know that. That is new information.
See, now you've got something else you can say to him if you oh
my God, you're Jonathan Frakes. You're Captain America for Marvel.
Yeah. Remember when you could buy comics everywhere? Exactly. That's what we're talking about, man. Those are the good old days. And you never knew it was coming out week to week, right? Because there was nothing to let you know. You just showed up at the newsstand and there it was, right?
There was there.
Right. You counted the weeks between your favorite series so that you knew the next issue of when Spider-Man was supposed to come out, but you had no idea what it was going to be. And then every once in a while, those first issues would show up like, Ms. Marvel #1 or Nova #1.
Still only 35 cents. No, I don't think she would agree with you. I don't think she would agree.
Well, wait a minute.
Leprechaun was her greatest work. Yeah, it may
Oh.
be, but I don't think she'd agree with you.
Yeah, Johnny Depp, star Who Married to Amber Heard. Yeah, I'm sure he'd
No,
really
the
appreciate
star who
that.
beat Amber Heard in court. That's who he is now.
Paul is correct. The Rocketeer is such a feel-good movie. I love that movie. It was like the comic book. The comic book was a nostalgic, feel-good adventure story with fantastic art, obviously by Dave Stevens. But boy, it's funny how period pieces in certain periods of nostalgia and stuff can really work charm into a story or into a series. And unfortunately, we don't see enough of it. Because it's a lot more fun to draw, say, 30s Chicago than it is to draw the Chicago of 2020, right? You know,
a lot less dangerous too.
Yeah, well, it might have been a different way though. You had mobsters in the 30s. So
yeah, but those mobsters, they were all about business. They didn't want to go around shooting everything up because it was bad for business. Today's gangbangers, they don't care about that so much.
Now look what you've started. Jonathan Frakes, star of Beyond Belief, fact or fiction. Look at all these Jonathan Frakes series that apparently he was in. What is it? Pork Hunt, your wife was the bomb in Machete. Oh my gosh. All right, and with that, we're going to wrap.
Unfortunately, Marcus Kilgoo is correct. Comics and charm, not in the mainstream.
Boy, that's for sure. Well, we're going to wrap this crazy show up because I have to get back to fulfilling orders. I want to get this thing, I want to be completely done by Friday or Saturday of this coming week. So I've got to get to work.
But before we do,
yes,
the usual shill. Make sure, guys, you can follow me over on MeWe at the Sequential Treasures group, where all the information about me and the artist is posted first before it goes anywhere else. Also, make sure to head on over to the art gallery where the art is posted. I got about 1,400 pieces up there of sweet art, all from different genres, different styles, different books, different publishers. You know, anything you got, you want, we got it. Just come on over. Got plenty of stuff. I know times are tough, but we got stuff for every budget level. So that's good. And also be sure to join up on my channel. I'll be doing a live stream tomorrow. I'm going to be getting it ready as soon as I get this one done. I'm going to start setting it up. I'm going to be doing one of my sequential thinking pieces. And I can tell you what it's all about in one single word: the Rippaverse. And there it is. That's what my piece is going to be about tomorrow: the Rippaverse. So you don't want to miss that. And of course, with Aaron, don't forget to sign up for Wraith of God 2 Blood Hunters.
Yes, the links
on right now.
Yeah, the links for all of this good stuff is in the description of this video. And we got a couple weeks before I'm going to launch Blood Hunters because I want to get everything shipped out first, and I still have some art to get done for the campaign page. But it will be in August, probably later in August sometime. We'll launch that. But I need you guys to sign up early. You can get a Monkey in Space Drinking beer card if you sign up early. So why not? And I want to get those numbers up to over 1,000 early signups would be great. So if you haven't done that, please take a moment and visit over that. Make your way over to the sign up page, visit that, and sign up if you would. So anyway, there you go. Do you have any
next Comic Art Convo?
I was going to say, what have you got?
August 27th.
Do you have an idea of what we're doing?
You know what? Normally I don't spoil it, but I'll do it for this one. I'm going to get everyone. Here's our opening topic, guys. I already got it picked out. Hitchcock, our favorite Hitchcock films.
Oh, this is going to be good.
Next month is Hitchcock's 122nd birthday. No, wait,
wow.
123rd birthday of Alfred Hitchcock next month. So we're going to do our favorite Hitchcock movies.
My favorite director. This is going to be a blast. So you guys make sure you join us for that. Chris says, I'm receiving a package from Aaron Lopresti. Can't imagine what it is. Oh, I can, Chris. I can imagine exactly what it is. So anyway, thank you guys so much for joining us. We had a nice, talkative, involved crowd, as we always do for this fun-loving show, this high-energy show talking about comics and whatnot.
I'm just glad I got through that what if issue without crying. That's all I
can say. That's right. That's going to be your new label
for me.
The man who weeps at what if. But you're not the only one. When I was a kid, I got a little teary on some of those what ifs too. You know, they were my mom, what's wrong? Oh, Sue ran off with the Submariner. Poor Reed. Oh my goodness. But anyway,
that's what he gets for spending too much time with test tubes.
That's right. You've got to show your woman some attention, man.
That's
And he blew it. So, but he can hang out with Spider-Man for the rest of his life, though. So he had that going for him. All right, guys, thank you again so much for joining us. We are here the last Saturday of every month with Comic Art Convo. And as James just told you, we'll be talking about Hitchcock films next time, which should be an absolute blast. I'm looking forward to that.
Mark it on your calendars, August 27th.
There it is. There's the date. So everybody, enjoy the rest of your weekend. If you're in this heat wave,
Stay cool.
Yep, absolutely. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us.